Okay, Lama, today we are going to talk about the React basics. You know what are the React basics now already, but I little bit explain. Uh, Components. Components are the independent and reusable bits of code. They are serve the same purpose as the JavaScript function, but work in the isolation and return the HTML codes. Okay. Uh, Components come in the two types, class component and functional component. I am not going to explain these things because now you are already know. Okay. The basics in the next thing is the props. What is the mean by the props? Component can receive the information from the parent component by utilizing the props. If we want to share the data between the component, we have to use the props. We share data between the component by using the props. Okay, a prop is the object accessible to the all the React component. For example, think uh, after the declaring the function in the your program, you need to declare the parameter list in the function signature. And after that, when you are calling that function, you need to pass the argument for the that function. This is the same thing in here. We use the props instead of the parameter or argument. ළමයි අපි මෙහි parameters තමයි පාවිච්චි කරන්නේ. parameters වෙනුවට තමයි props පාවිච්චි කරන්නේ component වල data share කරගන්න. Okay. function වල නම් අපි data share කරගන්නේ කොහොමද function අතර parameters. එහෙම නැත්නම් argument පාවිච්චි කරලා but in the components වල අපි කොහොමද data share කරගන්නේ props පාවිච්චි කරලා. මේක තමයි සරල තේරුම props වලට. හොඳේ. If we want to share the data between the components, we use the props. For example, as a functions. If we want to share the data between the functions, we use the parameter list or arguments. Okay, I think you can understand now. This is the signature for the passing the props. When you are passing the props, you need to call to the component. This is the component now. App is the component name. Full name is the prop name. And nimal is the value that we are going to store in the full name variable. Okay. This is the way for the call into the component with props. Okay. In the case of the functional component, we can access the props value as shown in the below. When we are accessing the props value, we need to follow this signature props. Props is the keyword. You have to put the dot after that prop name. In this example, what is the prop name? Prop name is the full name. Then if you call to the props values, you need to type props dot full name. After that, it is called to the value of the full name variable. Okay. This is the way for the sharing the props between the components. Okay. Basic. The next thing is the use state. I'm not going to explain about the use state. I already explained to you to what is the state and what we are going to use the state and how we are going to likewise things. Okay. Now we move to the example. Okay. I create the component. It name as a parent. Okay. Parents. Okay. Parents. Then you need to first of all import the info. React. After that, you need to create the function for the parent component. I have create the arrow function. Function name must be same as the file name. This is the parameter list. There is no any parameter in the parent component. Therefore, parameter list is empty. Return the component return the HTML codes. And so this is the parent component, and I wanted to show the count value. Then type count, but here I have not create the use state. I need to create the use state before calling the count variable. Now I am going to create the on use state. Here you can see it. Use, yes, right. Okay. At the initial state, I pass the 0 for the use state. Okay. This is the way. Now I'm going to call the next component. Before moving from this component, don't forget to export default. Okay. Okay. Nextly, you need to create the second component, which is the child. Now we need to pass the parameters for the child component. Import. Yeah. You need to create the function name is child. And you have to pass the two parameters because we are going to pass the parameters for the props for the child component. Therefore, you need to declare the two parameters in the function signature. Okay. What are the parameters we are going to declare? Count and set count. Okay. Return parameter this is the this is a child component, and you need to display the value of the count variable in this component. Therefore, we need to call the count area. Now I am going to call to the child component. You have to export the call a child, and you need to, I'm going to call the, how we call to the parent, my child component. You need to type name of the component. After that, you need to pass the props for the child component. What are the props we are going to pass for the child component? We wanted to pass the count and set count use step for the child component. Count, count, so that set count, set count. Okay, this is the way for the passing the props for the child component. Okay, now this is the output. At the initial stage, I have passed the 0 for the use state. Therefore, count variable value of the count variable is 0. Okay, you can see it here. Okay? At the initial stage, okay, I have passed the 0 value for the count variable. Therefore, value of the count variable is 0 and it is shown in the screen. Okay. Now I need to again pass the this how many props for the other component. The I now I create the next component. It is the brand component, brand child component. Okay. Import. Yeah. And now I need to on here we are use the parameters because we are passing the approximate, therefore we need to mention the parameters. Um, you need to return H2 tag. This is the grand child component. Okay. After that, you have to you want to display the count value. Now you need to call the count variable. Okay. Now you have to update the value of the count variable in the grandchild component. You have to declare the button on until have to give the, now we call the set count function. Why we are use the set count function? To update the values of the value of the count variable. Okay. Increment. Finally, you have to export default. Okay. Okay. Now you need to call to the grandchild component. How do you call the grandchild component and pass the subs for the uh, okay. Now you can see the final output. Okay. I wanted to add some CSS for the button. Therefore, I need to create the function styles. And I wanted to call the style sheet dot create. You can declare the file, you can give any other name for the property, and you have to view with file. mm, Say that mm, okay. Okay, now you need to go to the okay. Okay, you can see, you can give the color you want like. Okay, and you can give likewise. Okay, if I increase the value of the count variable, it increased by 1, as well as in the parent child component and in the child component, count variables are increased by 1. Now, if we want to use the if we want to use the count variable value in other component, again we need to create the component and pass the parameters. This is the way for the passing the values via between the component by using the props. Okay, this one is very useful for the small applications, but this is not this is not applicable for the big mobile applications like Facebook, WhatsApp. When we are developing the uh, complex application, we have to use the context API, because in the context API are not using the props. It directly can access the component. Here we can't access the component directly. We have to follow the step-by-step approach and step-by-step uh, call to the, we have to call the step-by-step to the every component via the process. Okay. It is so difficult situation. That is why we are moving to the context API. Okay. Now, I think you can get the idea about the props in this example. And now I'm going to explain what is the context API, why we are using the context API, how we are use the context API. How we build the context in the React application. Okay. Okay, now we are going to create the context API. Context API is the React state management library. What is mean by the state management? State management is the process of the managing the React status. Mm, and one of the React management library is the context API. It is used for the share the data between the component without using the props. And it is the very efficient and effective method that is why we are going we use context API without using the props when we are building the huge mobile applications. Okay, first of all, you need to create the file and it name as a counter provider. After that, inside of the file, you have to type these codes. Okay, first of all, import the React. After that, you have to create the counter context. That is the object. You have to use the create context hooks to create the counter context object. You can give the some variables at the initial stage. Set count is the function that we use to update the value of the counter variable. Secondly, you will have to create the provider. Here I am going to create the function. It is the arrow function, and you have to give the function name as function name of the file name. Counter provider. You have to declare the parameters inside of the parentheses. Children, here you can give any other name that you want. It does not affect for your context. Okay. Okay. Now we have created the providers. Then we need to declare all the variables that we need to pass the values via the components. Okay. Here. I have used the use state here. The 0. And you need to return the provider. Counter contact dot provider. What is it? Here you create the counter context by using the create context hooks. When you are creating the counter context has the two properties, provider and consumer. Provider we use to wrap our component that we want to share the data, and consumer is used to consume the data of the context. Okay. But usually we are not using the consumer. We use state hooks instead of the consumer property. Okay, this is the one of the property of the counter context, and we use it here. Okay, now you need to, when we are calling the component, we pass the props, but here we pass the values instead of the props. Okay, set format, you need to call to the second parameter. Okay, finally you need to export the counter context and counter provider. Now we have finished creating the context. Now we need to call the context where we want to use. Okay. I wanted to share the data within the two same data, same values within the two components. Therefore, I need to create that components. One dot okay. Okay. And use context. Now you need to call to the context you created. What is the context you created? It's the counter context. Okay. And finally, you have to return these things. Count, and you have to put the button to increment the value of the count. And export for my mark. Here you have to give the this is the 9.1. Okay. Okay, it's showing errors. This is my one of the component. I wanted to component create the two components. Now I'm going to create the second one. My component. Okay, this is the component two. You need to create the other component. It is the parent. 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 Okay, you need to return the. Okay, now you have to call to the counter provider. Counter provider. And you have to mention all the component that you want to share the data. I wanted to share the data same way, variable values within the two components. Now I'm going to call my component. Okay, this is the now I have finished the creating the context API. You need to give the simple letters for the children. And you have to rename your file by using the function name, and you have to start the file name with the capital letters. Don't forget these things. These are the very important things. Finally, here you can see the output. When we increment the value of the variable in the component 2, it is updated on the component 1. If we update the value of the count variable in the component 1, it is update on component 2. Here we did it by using the context API without using the rows. Okay, I think you can understand what I'm teach. ළමයි ඔයාලට මේ වීඩියෝ එක බලලා මේක හොඳට මේ ස්ටඩි කරන්න ඔයාලගේ ICA එක ෆස්ට් ICA එක කන්ටෙක්ස් API වලින් ප්‍රශ්න අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම දානවා. ඒ හින්දා ඒකට ලෑස්ති වෙන්න.